Every scar now tells a story of victory. Have you ever stopped to consider the power hidden within these words? Imagine for a moment a soldier returning home after long months on the battlefield. He sits silently, looking at his hands, and in each line, each mark, relives memories he cannot erase. The body may bear some wounds, but it is the invisible ones, the ones no one sees, that truly weigh the most. And this is where the question arises that makes us reflect. But what happens when the scars are not on the body, but on the soul? The scene is intense, almost cinematic. A man standing before a mirror, trying to recognize the face that now reflects not only his image but also the experiences that transformed him. The uniform is gone, the war is behind him, but within him, battles are still being fought every day. Perhaps you've never experienced a battlefield, but have you ever felt like you carry invisible pain? Scars that no one understands, but that are always there, as if they were part of who you are. Have you ever experienced this? Invisible scars are different. They don't appear in photographs, they don't require stitches, but they can still be the most difficult to deal with. They are reminders of moments when fear took over, when loneliness was overwhelming, when hope seemed lost. A soldier returns home, and on the outside he seems whole, but inside his mind relives sounds, images, and feelings that the world around him cannot perceive. It's as if he's fighting silently, daily, against enemies known only to him. And it's at this point that we begin to realize that scars don't just belong to those who have been through war. All of us, in some way, carry marks that have shaped our lives. It could be a painful loss, a period of uncertainty, or even moments when we thought about giving up. These are experiences that leave deep marks on the soul. And the truth is, no matter how much we try to hide them, they are part of who we are today. What you're about to discover now may surprise you. These scars may be the very signs of victory you haven't yet learned to see. Imagine the weight of returning home and realizing that, despite being surrounded by people, you feel completely alone. The soldier who was once applauded as a hero now must learn to deal with looks that don't understand his pain. He smiles, but his heart still bleeds. He talks, but often feels silent. It's in this contrast between what you see and what you feel that the strength hidden behind every invisible scar is born. And perhaps that same strength lies within you too. Stay with me until the end, because this journey goes far beyond uniforms and battlefields. It's about transformation, about finding new meaning amid pain, and about realizing that what seemed like the end can actually be the beginning of a new life. Every story of overcoming adversity begins at the darkest point, and it is precisely there that the light capable of transforming everything is born. What if every scar were actually a silent testament to your survival? What if, instead of hiding them, you could see in them a map of your own victory? What we'll explore from now on is precisely this mystery: how invisible scars can transform into symbols of strength and rebirth. And perhaps this is where I want to open up space for you too. Because, just as every soldier carries their own scars, each of us has a story that deserves to be heard. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far, or even an experience you've had that left an invisible mark. Rest assured, when you share, you not only strengthen your own journey, but also help others who may be going through the same thing. Sometimes your words are what someone needs to hear to keep them going. And since we're building this space for reflection and transformation together, take the opportunity to like this video. It seems simple, but every like shows that this message is valuable, that it deserves to reach more hearts. And if you feel this type of content speaks to you in a special way, subscribe to the channel. This way, we walk side by side in each new story, and you won't miss any of the next chapters of this journey. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of message. That's what transforms a video into something alive, capable of creating a community of support, hope, and learning. So, comment, like, and subscribe. Not as an automatic gesture, but as part of this experience we're sharing together. Because each interaction of yours is like a flame that keeps this light burning for those who still need to see that their scars can also tell stories of victory. When a soldier returns from war, the image many people carry is that of a hero arriving home, greeted with applause, hugs, and tears of joy. The scene seems like the perfect end to a long battle, as if everything ended there. But the hidden truth that almost no one sees is that, more often than not, the real challenge begins precisely at that moment, because it's not just about physically returning, getting off the plane, or walking through the front door. It's about learning to live again in a world that seems to have moved on without waiting for them. It's at this point that the silence becomes deafening, and the invisible scars begin to reveal themselves. Imagine someone who spent months or years on a battlefield, accustomed to quick decisions, constant tension, and the real fear that every moment could be their last. The body recovers, but the mind remains alert, as if every noise were a gunshot, and every shadow concealed an enemy. The impact is so profound that the simple act of walking down a quiet street can turn into an internal struggle. The heart races, breathing quickens, and the sense of danger never completely disappears. It's as if the war has become embedded in the background of the mind, always ready to be relived. Reconnecting with routine can be more difficult than any mission accomplished in hostile territory. While the world celebrates the return, the soldier faces a silent challenge: how to adapt to a life where the battles are no longer physical, but emotional. Everyday conversations seem superficial compared to the weight of what has been experienced. The small difficulties of daily life, which for others are merely setbacks, seem almost unreal when compared to the life or death decisions that were once commonplace. This difference creates an invisible barrier, a distance between the returnee and those around them. Family, however loving, doesn't always understand. How can one explain in words what it means to see a friend fall beside you? How can one translate into simple sentences the feeling of not knowing if the next dawn would actually be seen? There's no manual for conveying these experiences, and often, the soldier chooses silence, believing that speaking would only increase the pain of those around him. This silence, however, turns into isolation. It's like living in two worlds: the present, full of people who want to help, and the past, which insists on returning night after night. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because returning after war isn't just about what was lost, but about what needs to be rebuilt. It's not about erasing memories, but about learning to live with them in a way that doesn't destroy, but rather strengthens. It's in this process that mindset makes all the difference. Many believe that starting over means forgetting, but true transformation happens when you understand that every memory can be reinterpreted. Pain can become a learning experience, and invisible scars can become milestones in overcoming obstacles. This journey, however, is marked by choices. Daily decisions that seem small but shape the entire journey. Getting out of bed even when the weight is too great. Choosing to speak even when instinct calls for silence. Reaching out even when the urge is to retreat into one's own world. It is in these moments that true strength is tested. The courage that once sustained the body in the face of danger now must sustain the soul in the face of loneliness. It is not a struggle won in a single day, but rather in every moment in which one chooses to continue. What few realize is that there is an invisible impact not only on the soldier's life, but also on those around him. Family must adapt, friends must relearn how to connect, and even society in some way bears the responsibility of welcoming. Because the war may have ended on the battlefield, but it continues silently in the hearts of those who return. Recognizing this is the first step to understanding that the greatest battles are not fought with weapons, but with resilience, faith, and a willingness to rebuild what was broken. And if you've made it this far, you've probably already realized we're talking about something much bigger than just soldiers. We're talking about lives that at some point were marked by situations that divided history into a before and an after. We all have our own private wars, our silent nights, our own returns to a life that seems forever changed. It's in this reflection that empathy is born, the ability to look at others and realize that each person carries within themselves a universe of struggles and victories that don't appear at first glance. Every word spoken, every welcoming gesture, can be a small building block in the reconstruction of someone who is relearning to live. And that's why understanding this process is so important. It's not just a distant story, but something that resonates with us all. Perhaps you know someone who returned from war, or perhaps your war is of a different nature, a loss, a disappointment, a sudden life change. What matters is recognizing that regardless of their origin, invisible scars exist and need to be viewed with compassion. Write in the comments, "I'm on this journey too." I want to see how much this message resonates within you and how it connects with your own story. Because when we share, we discover we're not alone. And this is only part of the journey, because there's still so much more to be revealed. Invisible scars carry a weight that often no one can imagine. While the marks on the body can be seen, explained, and even understood by outsiders, Those that remain in the mind and heart live hidden behind forced smiles and prolonged silences. It's like carrying a backpack full of rocks every day, but without anyone noticing it's there. On the outside, everything seems normal. Inside, the struggle is constant. Traumas that return in sudden flashes, painful memories that surface without warning, endless nights where sleep is replaced by memories that won't fade. This is the invisible weight that many carry, and that society still struggles to see. Imagine someone lying in bed in the middle of the night, eyes open in the darkness. The body is exhausted, but the mind insists on reliving every detail of the past, as if it were a film repeated endlessly. The sounds, the smells, the images, everything comes back so intensely that it seems real again. The heart races, the breath becomes shallow, and there's no way to turn off this whirlwind. And when morning comes, the same person has to get up, get dressed, and act as if nothing had happened. This is the portrait of invisible scars, the silent battle that takes place out of sight, but which consumes as much, or even more, than any physical wound. It's in this scenario that so-called silent crises arise, moments when, on the outside, a person appears to be fine, completing their tasks, conversing normally, but inside, they feel like they're falling apart. There are no screams, no outbursts. There's just a dense silence, laden with thoughts that no one else can hear. Often this silence is misinterpreted. People around them believe it's just distraction, fatigue, or a bad mood. But the hidden truth is that there's a struggle going on behind the scenes of the mind, and that this struggle requires immense energy to stay afloat. These invisible scars shape the way every decision is made. A mindset once focused solely on survival now needs to find space to deal with the unexpected, the sound of a door slamming, a smell that brings back memories, a date that triggers memories. Every detail can become a trigger, making the journey even more challenging. It's like living between two realities: the present, where people expect normalcy, and the past, where everything still feels too vivid. The impact is profound and often misunderstood. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic because understanding invisible scars means realizing that they don't just belong to soldiers returning from war. They're part of the lives of anyone who has faced significant pain, irreparable loss, or situations that completely changed the course of their lives. The face may not bear scars, but the soul holds memories that weigh heavily, and each person deals with this differently. Some transform these memories into strength, others try to hide them, and many lose their way, trying to carry a seemingly unbearable burden alone. Transformation happens when there's room to talk about it, when pain ceases to be a secret and becomes a point of connection. Revelations that were once guarded in fear become shared, and in this movement comes a sense of relief, almost as if some of the weight has been lifted from our shoulders. It's at this moment that you realize that invisible scars can also tell stories of courage. They're not signs of weakness, but rather marks of resilience, of someone who has endured the unbearable and still stands tall. This is the truth that needs to be remembered. No one emerges from their battles unscathed, but each mark is proof that someone has overcome something that could have destroyed them. Sleepless nights, fears that appear out of nowhere, moments when our heart races without explanation. These are not signs of defeat, but part of a journey that requires more strength than we often realize. Recognizing this is essential to building empathy, because when we understand that invisible pain exists, we stop judging by what appears on the surface and begin to see the human being in its entirety, with its internal struggles and silent victories. And it's precisely at this point that I want to invite you to reflect personally. How many times have you carried something inside that no one else knew about? How many times have you put on a smile just to hide that, inside, you were in pieces? If this has happened to you, know that you're not alone. Every story, every experience, carries with it scars that may not be visible but are as real as any mark on the body. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Because when we recognize and share, the weight lessens, and the journey becomes a little lighter. The contrast between the war hero and the common man returning home is perhaps one of the most painful images of this entire journey. During combat, the soldier is seen as a symbol of courage, strength, and resilience. He wears the uniform, carries the weight of responsibility, and is admired by everyone around him. On the battlefield, every decision is vital. Every gesture carries impact, and the feeling of being part of something greater keeps him standing even in the face of fear. But when this same man returns to everyday life, he discovers that the uniform is behind him, the applause has faded, and that he now must face something even more challenging: the routine of an ordinary life that seems to have no room for the pain he carries within. Suddenly, he goes from protagonist to supporting character in his own story. The revered hero is no longer remembered, and in his place emerges only someone who needs to adapt to social life again. The world around him continues to spin. People go about their daily lives preoccupied with bills, work deadlines, and petty family arguments. And he silently wonders, how can he find himself again in a life that seems to have no room for pain? How can he reconcile the memories of such an intense past with the monotony of days that seem to lack the weight of what has been experienced? This chasm between before and after is almost impossible to explain to anyone who has never experienced it. Before, he carried the title of warrior, someone capable of enduring what many would never endure. Afterward, he must learn to live amidst incomprehensible looks, superficial phrases of encouragement that fail to touch his true wound. The hidden truth is that war shapes not only the body, but also the mind. And when this mindset returns to an environment that doesn't share the same intensity, the shock is inevitable. The soldier feels he no longer belongs, either on the battlefield or in the civilian world. He is trapped in an invisible space where nothing seems to fit. It's as if life has been divided into two completely distinct chapters. The first marked by adrenaline, fear, and decisions that could change destinies in seconds. The second, marked by the attempt to rebuild, to find meaning in simple gestures like sitting at the family table, walking down quiet streets, or hearing laughter without feeling guilty. Because yes, guilt often rears its ugly head. Guilt for having survived when so many were left behind. This is one of the heaviest burdens they carry, the feeling that living fully is a way of betraying the memory of those who never returned. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this chasm between before and after isn't limited to soldiers. It's in a way a metaphor for many transformations we experience. How many times have we experienced situations that completely changed us, that made us feel like we'd never be the same again? A loss, a separation, a failure that shook our confidence. There's always a dividing line between who we were before and who we become afterward. And crossing that line requires courage because it means facing a version of ourselves we often don't recognize. Behind the scenes of this transition, there are revelations that aren't always pretty. There are days when emptiness speaks louder, when the feeling of not belonging becomes suffocating. But it is precisely there that the possibility of transformation arises. It's not about erasing what was before, but about finding a balance between what we were and what we can be. This is the true impact of pain. It forces us to look inward and make choices. Decisions that will define whether we will live trapped in the past or learn to build a future, where scars are reminders of victory, not just suffering. This contrast between hero and common man reveals something profound. Life never goes back to the way it was before, but it can be recreated. The point is not to try to recover what was lost, but to figure out how to move forward from what remains. It's a process of acceptance, of allowing pain to coexist with hope, of understanding that the journey didn't end with the return, but merely changed form. Write in the comments, "I'm learning to find myself again," because that is the essence of what we are exploring together. The search for meaning amidst the chasm between what we were and what we have become. There comes a moment in every survivor's life when the weight of memories seems unbearable. It's as if the soul reaches the limit of carrying alone everything trapped in memory. For the soldier, this moment doesn't arrive grandly, not accompanied by epic music or applause. Often, it arises in the silence of a random dawn, when they realize they can no longer hide their pain. It is at this point of vulnerability, when the ground seems to disappear, that the possibility of transformation arises. Because it is precisely when pain reveals itself in its rawest form that the need to confront it becomes impossible to ignore. The turning point doesn't happen because someone told you to be strong, nor because time simply healed the wounds. It happens when you realize that continuing to run away is more painful than facing them. When the soldier understands that the battle is now not against external enemies, but against the inner shadows that insist on pursuing you, something begins to change. And this change isn't quick, nor is it easy. It requires courage, but not the courage measured in gunfire or military strategy. It's a quiet, intimate courage that manifests itself in small decisions. Accepting help, allowing yourself to speak, acknowledging that there's a burden too heavy to bear alone. This is where a powerful revelation emerges. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to take a step even when fear screams loudly. On the battlefield, this courage saved lives amidst chaos. Off it, this same courage is what allows soldiers to rise again, rebuild their identity, and transform scars into learning experiences. The hidden truth is that every trauma, no matter how cruel, can become a seed of growth when a person decides to no longer live as a slave to pain. This decision is, in itself, an act of quiet heroism, one that doesn't make the headlines but has a profound impact on the lives of those who make it. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the turning point isn't just about facing the past, it's about redefining the present. It's when the soldier begins to realize that pain no longer needs to be an enemy, but can become an ally. Instead of fighting memories, he learns to dialogue with them, to find in them not only suffering but also lessons that can shape a new way of living. This mindset paves the way for transformation, because it allows us to look within and see that behind the darkness there still exists a flame that has never been extinguished. Behind the scenes of this process, there are setbacks. There are days when everything seems to get worse. There are moments when you want to give up. But with each fall, there also arises the opportunity to get up differently, more consciously, more humanly. And it is in this movement of falling and getting up that the true journey of healing is built. Because facing invisible scars doesn't mean eliminating them, but learning to walk with them without letting them determine the course of your life. It's a daily learning process, made up of constant and often painful choices. But each decision becomes a victory. Each step taken is a reminder that it is possible to move forward even when carrying deep scars. This is the true impact of transformation, realizing that pain can become a bridge, not a prison, that every tear can turn into strength, and that every silence can give way to an inspiring voice. It's not a change that happens from the outside in, but from the inside out, the moment one chooses to see one's own wounds no longer as enemies, but as chapters in a story that continues to be written. Comment here. That makes sense to me, because recognizing this turning point is understanding that, even in the face of the most intense pain, there is always the chance to transform one's journey into something that goes far beyond survival. When we begin to look beyond pain and see the possibility of transformation, we realize that each scar holds within it a silent strength. It's as if those marks, visible or invisible, bear witness to battles won that don't always appear to the world. And that's where stories of overcoming come in. Accounts of soldiers who, even in the face of the deepest trauma, found a way to transform their pain into a source of inspiration. One of them, for example, was a veteran who spent years immersed in constant nightmares. Every noise made him relive the gunshots. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. For a long time, he believed he would never be able to live in peace again. But at a certain point in his journey, he decided he no longer wanted to be a slave to the past. He sought help, opened his heart to support groups, and gradually realized that his wounds could become tools of empathy. Today, he dedicates his life to talking to young people who also face trauma, showing that it is possible to find light even in the darkest nights. His story proves that courage is not just surviving war, but rising after it. Another striking example is that of a soldier who, after returning from the battlefield with visible physical scars, began to feel ashamed of his body. He hid his arms, avoided public places, and believed those marks were signs of defeat. But over time, he discovered a hidden truth. Every line on his skin was a reminder that he was alive, that he had resisted when many could not. He then began to share this realization with others, turning his scars into symbols of resistance. Today, his lectures move crowds, precisely because they reveal that what seemed like weakness was, in reality, the greatest proof of strength he could bear. These stories show that behind every scar lies a powerful revelation. Survival is, in itself, an act of victory. The scars become silent witnesses that life went on, even in the face of the impossible. It's as if each one says, "I was there, I faced it, I resisted, and today I'm here to tell the tale." And this isn't limited to the context of war. All of us, in some way, carry the scars of personal battles. A loss, an illness, a crisis that changed everything. Each of these moments leaves signs that, if we learn to see them, can become reminders of resilience. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding the power of scars also means changing the way we view our own stories. How many times have you looked back on what you've experienced and wished you could simply erase it? How many times have you wished no one knew about the scars you bear? But what if, instead of hiding them, You could transform these scars into bridges that connect you to others. Behind every pain lies the possibility of impact, a chance to show that even the most painful wounds can generate learning and hope. Our mindset changes completely when we understand that we are not defined by our scars, but by what we choose to do with them. It's a daily choice, to surrender to shame, or to embrace each mark as proof that we've moved on. The truth is that those who carry scars have a wealth of experiences that can inspire, teach, and strengthen those around them. And this applies to all types of scars, whether physical or emotional. They are chapters in a journey that continues, signs that the story isn't over but is constantly changing. These examples remind us of something essential. Pain doesn't have to be the final point. It can be the comma that separates suffering from overcoming, the space between trauma and revelation. And when someone has the courage to show their scars, they pave the way for others to do the same, creating a network of support, understanding, and humanity. Scars cease to be mere signs of what was lost and become symbols of what was achieved. Write in the comments, "I'm on this journey too," because every scar you carry can be more than a reminder of pain. It can be a living testament to the strength that exists within you and that often you yourself haven't yet realized. After going through the most difficult moments, something curious begins to happen. Many who carry scars after accepting their marks begin to see them not only as pain, but also as a calling to transform all that into purpose. What once seemed merely suffering begins to become a source of strength, as if the wounds gained a voice and could serve as a guide for others still trapped in the darkness. It is at this moment that the journey ceases to be merely personal and begins to take on a collective impact. The veteran who once believed himself broken discovers that his own story can save lives when told. The weight doesn't disappear, but he finds new meaning in carrying it. Many soldiers report that the turning point was not just dealing with the trauma, but realizing they could help others cope as well. This gesture changes everything. By sharing their experiences, they find not only relief, but also a renewed sense of purpose to move forward. It's as if the past, once a ghost, becomes a tool for transformation. Real-life testimonies show that by opening their hearts in support groups, soldiers who previously believed they were alone discover an entire community that understands their pain. And in this exchange, something powerful emerges, the recognition that no one needs to face their own internal war in silence. Organizations around the world demonstrate this impact. Programs that bring veterans together for physical activities, art workshops, group therapy, and social projects demonstrate how much the act of sharing can heal. Wounded Warrior Project, for example, has helped thousands of veterans reframe their wounds, showing that purpose can arise precisely from the place where the pain seemed greatest. In other contexts, local support groups, often formed by veterans themselves, create safe spaces for each person to find the courage to speak, cry, and above all, listen. These behind-the-scenes glimpses of recovery reveal a hidden truth. No one overcomes pain alone, and when shared, it becomes lighter. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic because discovering purpose isn't a privilege of soldiers. It's a human, universal movement. How many people who have experienced personal loss or serious illness have subsequently decided to dedicate their lives to helping others in the same situation? This transformational mindset arises precisely from the clash between what was destroyed and the need to rebuild. The impact of this is immense because it gives scars a value that goes far beyond survival. They become symbols of hope, living reminders that pain is not the end of the story, but the beginning of something greater. In veterans' testimonies, a recurring phrase recurs, "If my pain can prevent someone else's, then it was not in vain." This decision to transform suffering into service is one of the noblest acts anyone can perform. By sharing their experiences, they not only lighten their own burden but also inspire others to believe there is a way out. This revelation changes the dynamic of everything. War, which seemed to have robbed life of its meaning, now offers the possibility of a new path. And suddenly, each scar becomes more than a memory. It becomes a testament to the fact that there is always a reason to carry on. Discovering purpose is what keeps the flame burning when everything seems dark. It sustains the journey through difficult days, gives meaning to each breath, and transforms the silence of sleepless nights into words of comfort for someone who needs to hear it. The pain doesn't disappear, but the outlook changes. And when perspective changes, life changes too. What was once a burden becomes a mission, and this mission creates a current of strength that spreads far beyond the individual. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Because finding purpose in your own scars is one of the most powerful ways to transform pain into victory. And this is just another step in this journey that continues. You may not have gone to war, but you also carry scars that tell your story. They may not be visible marks on your skin, and perhaps no one around you knows exactly the weight you've borne, but they are there, shaping who you are. Each of us has wounds that don't appear in photographs, but which manifest themselves in the decisions we make, the fears we carry, and even the dreams we choose to pursue or abandon. This is the universal message. Everyone, without exception, carries scars that reveal an intimate and profound part of our journey. The battles we face may be different, but the feeling of pain and overcoming is something that connects every human being. For some, a scar is a reminder of a painful loss. For others, it's the echo of a disappointment that completely changed their outlook on life. There are those who bear the scars of a difficult childhood, an illness that left its mark, a relationship that ended in ruins. Each scar is a chapter written in silence, often kept in the heart as if it were a secret no one could understand. But the hidden truth is that deep down, we all know what it's like to live with something that has left eternal scars. This realization brings us closer because it allows us to see beyond appearances. How often do we look at someone and believe their life is perfect, when in reality they may be fighting invisible battles? This is the impact of scars. They remind us that every smile can hide tears, every gesture of strength can be bearing an immense weight, and every spoken word can carry much more than it seems. Each individual's journey is unique, but at the same time, profoundly similar, because we all share the experience of fighting something that has marked us. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because recognizing that we all carry scars changes our mindset. Behind the scenes in life, no one escapes moments of pain. What differentiates each person is not the absence of wounds, but what they do with them. Transformation happens when we stop seeing our scars as signs of weakness and start seeing them as proof of resilience. When we understand this, we begin to look at ourselves with more compassion and others with more empathy, because it's not just about acknowledging the pain, but about learning to appreciate the strength that arises from it. This reflection has a powerful impact. If we all have scars, then we all have stories of survival to tell. The one who overcame nights of solitude, the mother who bore the marks of a silent sacrifice, the young man who rose after a fall that seemed definitive. Each of them is proof that wounds are not the end, but part of a journey that continues. And when we share our scars, we create an emotional connection that goes beyond words. Revelations emerge in this process. The pain that seemed to be ours alone is, in fact, a link that connects us to so many others. Realizing that we all carry scars is like lifting a veil from our eyes. Suddenly we begin to see the world differently. We come to understand that no one is made solely of victories or defeats, but of a complex mix of falls and new beginnings. And it is in this mix that the true beauty of life lies. Scars remind us that we survived, that we were able to carry on, even when it seemed impossible. They are the marks of our humanity. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Because admitting that we all carry scars is taking the first step toward transforming pain into connection, and connection into strength to carry on. Scars, when looked at closely, carry a beauty that few can see. For a long time we were taught to hide them, as if they were marks of weakness, reminders of moments when we failed or were vulnerable. But the hidden truth, which so often goes unnoticed, is that every scar is actually a symbol of victory. Think about it. If you have a scar, it's because you survived something that could have destroyed you. This mark is not a sign of failure, but of resilience. It's living proof that even in the face of pain, you found the strength to keep going. When a soldier looks at the marks they bear on their body or soul, they can feel the weight of memory. But over time, as their mindset changes, these same marks begin to tell a different story. They cease to be open wounds and become invisible medals, each one narrating a chapter of overcoming. It's as if each line, each mark, were a signature from destiny saying, "You've been through this, and you're here to tell the story." This is the most inspiring impact of scars. They reveal that pain can transform into strength, and that no wound is without meaning when we view it as part of our journey. The beauty hidden in scars isn't something you immediately notice. It often takes time, reflection, and above all, courage to change the way you see yourself. Scars don't diminish anyone. On the contrary, they make the story richer, deeper, more human. Those who bear visible or invisible scars already know that life isn't just about smiling on easy days, but also about persevering on days when all seemed lost. This revelation changes everything, because it turns every painful experience into a testament to transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding the beauty of scars is realizing that they are reminders that life hasn't given up on you. They remind us that even when our body or soul has been wounded, there was something stronger that kept us standing. And this strength comes not only from our survival instinct, but also from the choices we made along the way, the decision to get up after falling, to try again after failing, to believe when everything seemed hopeless. Each of these decisions is etched in the scars we carry. When someone tries to hide their scars, they miss the chance to share a powerful truth with the world, that it is possible to win. Therefore, showing the marks, even symbolically, can be an act of liberation, not to display pain, but to reveal victory. It's like shining a light in the darkness and saying, I was there, I fought, I fell, but I also rose again. This gesture inspires, connects, and transforms because behind every scar lies a story that can change the way someone else sees their own life. Scars, ultimately, are proof that we are made of more than just achievements. We are made of struggles, falls, and new beginnings. They remind us of our humanity and connect us to each other on a much deeper level. Therefore, never see them as flaws, but as symbols. Symbols of resistance, courage, and transformation. Write in the comments, my scars also tell a story. Because every mark you carry is much more than a trace of pain. It is the living reminder that you won. Each scar now tells a story of victory. This phrase gains even more strength when we look back on everything we've been through together so far. Because deep down, each mark we bear is not just a record of a difficult moment, but a living reminder that we were able to endure. The soldier who returned from war with wounds to his body and soul, the mother who faced nights of uncertainty, the young man who rose after a fall that seemed definitive, they all have something in common. They didn't let pain be the final chapter. They transformed their marks into symbols of courage, silent testimonies that life is stronger than any battle. Perhaps you too have scars that no one sees, marks that carry stories never told aloud, memories kept deep in your heart. But know that each one has unique value, because they represent struggles you faced and overcame. No matter how great the pain, what matters is that you're here, standing tall, moving forward, and that's already a victory. The hidden truth is that it's not the wounds that define us but what we choose to do with them. And when we choose to see our scars as proof of endurance, our mindset changes, our journey takes on new meaning, and life is filled with revelations that were previously hidden. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because there's something transformative about sharing your own stories. When you make space to share your experience, you not only find relief but also inspire others who may be going through something similar. Behind the scenes of pain, silence often weighs more heavily than memory, and it's at that moment that one word from you can become a turning point for someone. It's in that gesture that we realize we're not alone, that our scars can light the path for others. And that's why I invite you to leave your story of overcoming adversity in the comments, or even a sentence that sums up what you felt after hearing this message. It can be simple, it can be brief, but it will have a greater impact than you imagine. Comment below, my scars also tell a story. This phrase could be the spark that connects you to someone who needs that encouragement. And if this message touched you in any way, if it sparked reflections or brought back important memories, please like and subscribe to the channel. This is not only a gesture of support for this work, but also a way to ensure this message reaches more people who need to be reminded that their scars are also signs of victory. Because ultimately, every time you interact, you help expand this circle of transformation and hope. Every scar now tells a story of victory, and your story, even if you don't realize it yet, could be exactly what someone needs to believe they too are capable of victory. If you've made it this far, it's because this message somehow resonated with you, and that's why I invite you to continue this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content, because each new video is designed to offer reflections that strengthen and inspire. And also leave a comment below with the following: I'm with you until the end. This way I'll know that you followed until the last second, and that this conversation made sense to you. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like, because it shows that this connection was real, that this time together was worth it. And since the journey doesn't end here, there's a video on the side that complements this topic. Click it, and stay with me there.